The object that I brought with me today is a syringe, and actually it's symbolic for my career path, but also a bit through my life. I did my PhD in medical sciences on type 1 diabetes, which is already something really applied in terms of science. I specifically did not want to work on something very, very specific like a protein or a gene. I wanted to see more what, with the research that I was doing, what could have been done actually in patients. And later on in my career, I've worked in several companies, and those companies were either vaccine companies or companies creating treatments in ophthalmology and oncology. So development of vaccines and drugs is something that has always been very close to my heart. The second reason why I want to bring this object is you can see that it's a toy, actually, this syringe. So another wire through my life is the fact that I always wanted to have kids. So I started early on in my career with having children. So I'm blessed with 4 beautiful kids, and I'm very happy that I could combine that with the work that I did in science and in vaccine and compound development. I studied biomedical sciences at the University of Leuven. After doing my master's, I continued working at the university as a PhD student, and I worked in the Legendo lab of Professor Chantal Mathieu, and I worked on type 1 diabetes. I actually combined my PhD with an additional master. I did a master in intellectual property. So after my PhD, I worked for 6 months as a patent attorney trainee at a patent office. After 6 months, I decided to change, and I went to GSK Vaccines, a big corporate organization. Intentionally, I changed job every once in a while to learn more. Because in a big organization, the good thing is that you can learn a lot. There is plenty of people that are having a lot of expertise around you, so you can really pick up from the people next to you. And if you want, you can become a deep expert, but I'm much more of an all-rounder, so I wanted to understand more what vaccine development really was from all of its aspects. So I intentionally moved from CMC regulatory to clinical regulatory to project regulatory on different types of vaccines. Yet a large organization is a slow organization. I wanted to understand how it was to work in a smaller organization. And so I went to, at that time, Thrombogenics, now called Oxurion, and I was there heading regulatory affairs. And that has been a really interesting expertise and experience, because in a small organization, you really need to roll up your sleeves. You learn by doing, let's say. The things that you have not done before, you need to find out yourself how you will do them. And after the period in Oxurion, I actually worked with the University of Leuven to spin out a company called AstriVax. And I'm now co-founder and CEO of AstriVax. My role in the company is to define the strategy for the company, is to ensure that there is financing for the company, is to ensure that we have the right partners for the company and that we have the right people to execute on our strategy. To make career choices, that is often a combination of, you can have a strategy in mind, but it's often also opportunity driven. So sometimes things cross your paths and you have to grab them, or you have to, in a way, prepare a bit your career paths. What helped me in making decisions is asking myself the question, if I had to take a decision, if I was at a crossroad of a decision, will I stay in just this job or will I go to another job? Is asking myself the question, what is the worst that can happen? So the risk appetite in a large company and a small company is different. However, the risk of being employed in a large company and in a small company is more of a perceived risk than a real risk, because large companies also reorganize. More than once it happens that a large corporation decides to stop research on a certain indication, and then often people are impacted. So even working in a large organization, your job can be impacted at any moment. But that is something that in a smaller company, you are pretty much aware of what's happening, and you will see that coming more than you see that coming, I think, in a large organization. So I think the risk is more a perception than a reality. Another piece of advice that I want to give is that if you want to make a career, if you want to do a PhD, never let anyone tell you you cannot combine that with having a family. I decided to, in my PhD, have 2 children. It's not easy. I'm not gonna say it's a walk in the park, but it is possible. And that's, I think, an important piece of advice, because I know a lot of young people struggle with what is sometimes perceived as decisions to be made of one or the other, but actually, if you really organize yourself well, you can do both. I think I can. I have never done it before, so I think I can do it. Which is something that, if you start a PhD, that's all what it is about. You've never done that before. You don't know what the end result will be. But doing it is such an experience. And there is bad days, there is good days, there's fantastic days. That will really shape you as a person and a professional for the rest of your life.